Hey, hello there. Welcome back to Gardening with Disability. Hey, all of you disabled people out there who want to get back out into your garden. Today I'm going to discuss simple tools that you can use primarily from a sitting position to help you get back out there into your garden. I will also discuss a few tools that you can also use from a sitting position, but you can also use them better from a standing position. Let's get started. The first tool I'm going to talk about today is one of my favorites. It is a simple garden caddy. This is a handy dandy little tool to have. It keeps all of my small garden equipment inside, and I can use it as a stool, and I can lean over and work in my garden. The brand doesn't matter, the size doesn't matter. This particular one is 24 and a half inches long. It is 14 and a half inches wide, and it's about 13 and a half inches tall. There are smaller ones, very much smaller ones. This is a good size one. My in-laws. This is great to have. And this is another reason why. I know I'm casting a shadow. Tools upon tools. I just want to show you a few items that this caddy holds. So I have garden gloves, pruning shears, just all kinds of stuff in this top. In the bottom, I have all the tools that we're going to discuss today. And I have a thing of fertilizer in here. So that lets you know that this particular caddy holds quite a bit. So the first simple tool to have in your gardening arsenal to garden from a sitting position or a standing position is a simple 12-inch ruler. A 12-inch ruler is handy to have if you have OCD like me and you want your plants to be more evenly spaced. A ruler may also be needed if you'll be utilizing a square foot gardening plan. The next simple tool you'll want for gardening, pruning shears. These are going to be used to, of course, prune anything that you don't want growing out of control. Primarily, I use these in my vegetable garden for pruning my tomato plants. The next simple tool, scissors. Yes, scissors. These are great for cutting suckers, little tiny suckers off of your tomato plants. And the next simple tool, grass shears. I keep these so that when I'm not weed eating around my beds, I can just trim around the edge of my beds. I mow between my garden beds to maintain a manicured garden, but I don't always weed eat like I should. So while maintaining anything inside of my beds, I'll also use grass shears at the same time to cut back any grass outside of the bed frames that the mower didn't quite cut down. The next simple tool, a hand trowel, a garden trowel. They come in various sizes. Of course, you're going to use these to dig. One of these, and I hope you can see it. Yes. It has measurements on it. I rarely use a hand trowel except at planting time, and I only use it to dig holes for the 6-inch pots I'll bury in the soil between each of my plants. The next simple tool, a bulb planter. Now, these also have measurements on them. You're going to be able to see the 2 on here, hopefully. There it is. I rarely use hand trowels. When I'm digging a hole to plant a tomato plant, cucumber plant, anything like that, I actually dig a hole with a bulb planter. My go-to for nearly every hole I dig for planting is a bulb planter. This tool makes it easier to dig holes, especially when deeper holes are needed. The next simple tool is hand cultivators. Now they do come in various sizes. Pick which one works for you. I like to use these to aerate the soil around the base of my plants. I also use these to loosen the roots of weeds that I might have in my garden beds. I use hand cultivators to loosen and aerate any compacted or crusted soil around the base of my plants so that water and nutrients can better reach plant roots. I also use them to pull up weeds. The next simple tool is a little tiny hand cultivator. And you can see the difference right here. This one right here, I primarily use in my concrete planters. When the soil on top gets a little compacted, I'll just take this and go around all of my plants. I have a lot of plants in my concrete planters, so I can get this little tiny tool in between them and start aerating the soil. Unlike the few plants you see left here after a deep freeze killed nearly everything off, my concrete planters are usually overfilled and overflowing with flowers and ornamentals. Because soil dries out faster and crusts over much faster in concrete planters, I use this mini hand cultivator to loosen and aerate the compacted soil around every plant. The next simple tool is a cultivator hoe combo. Of course, the cultivator, you know what that's for. That's going to be to aerate your soil. It's going to be to rake up um, some weeds when you're prepping your beds. And of course, then you have your hose on the end. This one is great for making rows that you're going to drop seeds into. And this one is good for breaking up compacted hard topsoil. If I don't immediately cover my beds with wood chips after planting, I'll use the Hoe Cultivator Combo tool to loosen and aerate the crusted topsoil that's likely to form after a hot, sunny day. The next simple tool is this. I don't know what this is. So I'm going to call it a weeding, cutting, scooping combo tool. I have no idea what this is. I don't use this tool often, but when I do, I use the weeding tip to help pull up wild onions or other rare taproot weeds that may be popping up in my beds. I use the cutting part when cutting into Bermuda and other grasses that are trying to take over a bed. And I use this tool to then scoop or scrape anything back towards me to be thrown out. The next simple tool is by far my favorite, and it is a simple little hand rake. It is my favorite. I do so much in my garden beds from a sitting position with this, from moving soil around to moving wood chips around. It's just a great tool to have. This is one of my favorites. This is one of them that I would absolutely recommend for any gardener. This particular hand rake was in a bin of garden tools I inherited from my grandmother, and it quickly became one of my favorite tools when gardening. I use it to push wood chips around all of my plants, to pull wood chips away from my plants when I need to add fertilizer or check the health of the soil. And I also use it to rake unnecessary wood chips out altogether. And of course, I use it to pull up weeds. These next simple tools I have bought recently. This is also a garden rake. The handle on it is, of course, a little longer, but it's not the size of a full size rake. This can be easily used from a sitting position. Along with that is a leaf rake, also easily used from a sitting position. This will be my first season using these particular tools. I'll use them just before planting to remove the last of last year's wood chips and leaves, and I'll use them to rake the soil back and forth to remove dirt clods that just won't break apart easily. This next simple garden tool comes along with the last two. It is a very short hoe, easily used from a sitting position. This will also be my first season using this hoe. As you can see, it can be used by one or both hands to loosen the soil. And the last simple tool in this last set is a short-handled shovel that can also be used from a sitting position. If you are a gardener who prefers to double dig instead of using a claw cultivator or tiller to prep your soil for planting, this shovel will help you do that from a sitting position. The next easy tool, not as easy. This is a claw cultivator. It can be used from a sitting position, but it is better used from a standing position. It can be used to loosen weeds and, of course, to mix in compost and fertilizers. I use this claw cultivator in the spring to quickly prep an entire bed for planting. It's lightweight and it's a lot easier to use than a rototiller. It loosens the soil, loosens all weeds and their roots so that I can easily pull them all out. It breaks up clods of compacted soil, and it easily mixes in compost and fertilizers. Although I have used this claw cultivator from a sitting position, I find that I can penetrate the soil deeper and maneuver the cultivator more aggressively from a standing position. I use it as a walking cane in my garden. It's great for that. If you keep it stuck into the ground, which I usually do, I'm working in my garden over here. When I need to get into a standing position, it helps me get to a standing position and it helps me steady myself. The last easy tool that should be used from a standing position but can be used from a sitting position is a full-size bow rake. This can be used to pull last year's wood chips off of your raised beds. It can be used to loosen the roots of weeds that may be growing in your beds. It can be used to push dirt around. I use it to make mounds for cantaloupe, squash, zucchini, and pumpkins. Again, it can be used from a sitting position, but it is best used from a standing position. I use a bow rake when prepping my beds for spring planting or for prepping them for winter. I rake out what needs to be removed, or I spread out or level out the soil with this rake. It's easier using a bow rake from a standing position. Here is a list of the simple garden tools that were discussed in this video. I hope you enjoyed today's video about simple garden tools that can be used primarily from a sitting position. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments, or you can email me personally. My email is out there for you guys if you want to email me instead. Until next time, get out there into your garden, find what works best for you, and just do that. And happy gardening. It's okay to feel sorry for yourself. Just don't unpack and live there. Feel your feels in the moment. Anger, pain, fear, heartache, doubt, abandonment, loneliness, and regret. Then set them all down. Now lace up your boots, put on your gloves, pick up your shovel, and get out there for some much needed garden therapy.